So I want to give y'all big thanks for all the support from my previous Nas video where we talked about his latest album, Nasir. Basically did a live reaction to it, and that video got like 14K views, and the actual comment section was really mixed. Like, a lot of people were being really positive, which I appreciate, and a lot of people were just being really hostile, like really toxic. And I forgot like how toxic the music community is, man. But you know what? I do appreciate all the people who were positive, because it was my first obvious. I thought it was pretty obvious that was my first time doing a video like that. And you know, it wasn't the most perfect professional thing. You know, y'all don't have to like tear me down like that. But for the people who act like that, you know, y'all, I know there's gonna be people like that on this video because it's a hip hop video. If y'all like my opinion, just keep it fucking moving. Don't be a bitch. You get mad at another man's opinion. You know, if you don't like my opinions, go make your own video. You know, go make a response video. Do what you gotta do. But don't bring that negative shit here. You know, whatever. Anyway, Nas has always been my favorite artist of all time. Like before Nas, there was no other favorite rapper or favorite artist because I wasn't really into music. I was that kid who stayed in the house and played video games, you know. And then as I got a little bit older, around 6th, 7th grade somewhere, I got introduced to Nas's music. I was trying to find that artist that fit me. I was trying to find, because at the time I was listening to Dr. Dre, Tupac, like trying to get introduced to music, but everyone listened to those artists, you know. I didn't necessarily want to find an artist that was no one was listening to, so I can brag about it. But at the same time, I wanted an artist to fit me, and you know, just someone like if I introduce you to it, you'll find a whole new world of music, and that's basically what Nas was at the time. Because like now, Nas is this artist that is top 3. People basically consider him that. Like since the internet took off, the like opinions have sort of molded together from each area of the world, like of the country and stuff. Because like Nas was a really East Coast artist, you know. He was, you know, he's always been one of the best of all time in the East. And you sort of get like little dots of people everywhere across the globe or across the country that like Nas. But now that the internet has brought us all together, there's just, it sort of masked itself, and we introduced his music to other people and they like it. So it just kind of, it's a chain reaction, if you will, with his music. And yeah, what this video is gonna be is basically me ranking Nas's music from best to worst. And I'm also gonna be doing a mini retrospect, like something really fast with that, so that you can kind of get an idea why I think every album belongs where it does. And yeah, so the picture that you're seeing is, it's gonna go left to right. So like it was written is at the top left, and at the bottom is Street's Disciple, which I think is his worst. So you kind of get an idea how this list is going, right? Like left to right, and keep just left to right, go down, left to right, go down, you know, basically that. So yeah, I do think It Was Written as his best album, but we're gonna get to that in a second. Anyway, let's start off with Illmatic. Illmatic is the hip-hop Bible, man. Everyone knows why Illmatic is so good. Like, even if you're not a hip-hop fan, even if you don't listen to Nas, you've heard of Illmatic at this point. It is kind of crazy though. Like, no one down south, like at least that I knew, like in my general area, no one knew what this album was until like until I was graduating. Like no one, I would be like, people like, what do you listen to? I listen to Nas. Okay, what does he make? Illmatic. I've never heard of that. What are you talking about, man? But the world has more or less, like outside of this area, people know this album is the hip hop Bible, and now like anyone can recognize this album. It's iconic. It's like Ready to Die, All Eyes on Me, but in a different light. Like every single track is perfect. Like it's just the perfect album. 10 tracks. You can't go wrong with it. It took him 2 years to drop the album, like to make it. So, and it shows like the amount of effort. And basically it set the standard for the rest of his career, unfortunately. Like your first album being your best automatically like fucks up the rest of your career. You either drop stuff as good as that, or your music is just gonna be called garbage. But it just shows you how good his album was, you know. I'm gonna also say like what's my favorite track from each album, and my favorite track from this one is Whose World Is This, which is really weird because like years after I already heard Illmatic, that was my least played track by far. Like I was playing Halftime a lot, but then yeah, like at some point like that track finally clicked with me, and it's my most played track from the album. It's my favorite. Second off, we're gonna be going into It Was Written. This is my favorite album of all time. It's my favorite Nas album. But why do I think it's better than Illmatic? Mainly because the lyrics are just as good, if not better. I know people aren't gonna like that opinion. I already know that. But I think the lyrics are better. I think they're like Nas Nas had this sort of radio pop friendly sound, like as far as the beats and stuff. But I think his lyrics were damn near just as good or even better than Illmatic's were. Like, he didn't slow down. You don't have to like the lyrics, the beats or anything. But I think he was just as good. Like, they caught Nas in his prime, but the unfortunate thing about It Was Written is that it was supposed to be a different project from what it is, and I know that's why a lot of people don't like it. Like, if you ever heard the tracks On The Real, it was supposed to be originally the first revision it went through. It was supposed to be a whole album produced by Marley Marl. Yeah, that guy. But the dude ended up selling, like, giving one of the tracks to someone, like On The Real, that track, and he gave it to someone. They put other features on the track, and unfortunately, like, it just ruined that relationship. The album never happened. And then there was supposed to be like what was it, One on One, which ended up just being I think a Street Fighter soundtrack song. Also, that track kind of fits the Illmatic sound, which it sounds like Illmatic Part 2. So I know that's why people just don't like It Was Written again, because this album was sounding so much like Illmatic Part 2, and then it just sort of took its own approach. But I think there's so much this album did right. Like, I can play this whole album without like ever skipping. Like, there's no down points in the album. I can play the entire thing. Even that one track with the Black Girl Lost, like, that one's kind of boring, but you know what? I can play it. I know the entire album by heart. But yeah, my favorite track from this one being Live Nigga Rap or Shootouts. Like, I love Shootouts too. Fantastic. Like, both songs are fantastic. That's all I can really say about that. And yeah, you got on that track, I think you got Prodigy, Havoc, and Nas. Like, they all just went off on the track. It was a freestyle track. They just all went off. It's perfect. It's a great song. Next up, we have I Am, which is another unfortunate event in his career. The unfortunate thing about this album was that it was supposed to be this sort of, like, this and Nostradamus were supposed to be one album, but it had this sort of concept of the first half of the album, which is I Am. It started off as like Nas rapping like he's inside of a belly button. I think the song is called Belly Button Window. He's like, I'm a fetus, you know, blah blah blah, all that stuff. He's rapping and stuff. And then the album eventually, like, he gets older, and then the last track on I Am, like the official track, is the same one, and that's when Nas dies. Like, he shoots himself, and yeah, he commits suicide because he's gonna go to jail for life if he doesn't. But then the second half of the album, which was gonna be Nostradamus, he resurrects as sort of this god, and you can tell by some of Nostradamus' tracks, the ones that weren't cut, the entire album just sort of has this what would I say, post-apocalyptic sort of heavenly feel to it. You know, I can't really describe it, but it sort of has this godly swagger to it, and the few tracks that have that, you know, it is unfortunate that those tracks aren't here. You got a few of them on lost tapes, like, from both albums, but it is unfortunate that these albums don't sound like what we want them to. But I Am, I think for what it is a solid album. It is the most pop, I think, of all of his albums. Like, people say It Was Written as a pop album, but at the same time, like, this one had that one track with Aaliyah. Like, what else was on there? Like, every single hook sort of has this what would I say, like, melody to it, and that's what people don't like about the album, I guess. But I appreciate it. It's actually pretty high up on my list, as you've seen. The good things about it, like, it does lose its direction because they took tracks and added tracks. It loses its direction a bit, unfortunately, but the good tracks are what makes it good. Like New York State of Mind Part 2, I think, what's the name of that track? I Want to Talk to You. Yeah, there's a few tracks on there that's just fantastic. KS, Money's My Bitch, dude, it's a good album. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I think it's really good. Yeah. Nostradamus, I don't think this album is as bad as people say, but it is bottom 3, hands down. Like, the album went through a revision, but you know, it's unfortunate that like how good the album sounded before and what it became like after. Like it was Nas trying to drop 2 albums in 1 year. You could tell this one was rushed, and you know, people just can see right through what the album is. But I think it's an okay album. I don't think it's bad. I don't think really any of Nas's music is bad, but this one for sure is bottom 3, especially after Nasir dropped. It pushed it down there. But I think it has a few good tracks like Project Windows. I like Last Slaves. What else is on there that I like? I like Nostradamus, the track. Come Get Me is a good track. Actually started the beef with Jay-Z. Yeah, it has some solid tracks. I like a lot of the album, but it also has tracks like Big Girl on it, you know. That song with Genuine on it. Like there's some misses in there, but I just can't say the album's great. I think it's okay. That's just how I feel about it. Next up, we have Stillmatic, which is Nas's return to form for a lot of people. Shout out to Jay-Z, because a lot of Nas fans don't like Jay-Z, but I do think that Take Over the track sort of lit a fire under Nas and made him come back to as good as he used to be. Sort of brought back this swagger. It sort of brought him back to his prime. Yeah, you got the dude just as cocky as fuck. Like, you never heard the dude as cocky as this, because he's always sort of like all the way up until here he's really kind of quiet. You could tell like Nas is a shy person, and it shows on like at least his first 3 projects. And yeah, this one sort of just made him like fuck everything. Sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but like starting with this album for a little while, he was just very savage on his tracks. You know, he dissed everyone on Stillmatic, it seemed like. And I love this album. I think it's his 3rd best by far. Like it might even be his 2nd best. I like it more than Illmatic maybe. I don't know, but I think that Illmatic is the better project. But when I think of the album, I think of Second Childhood. Just its production. I think of Ether. I think of like all the production. I think of the production more than the lyrics for some reason, and it's really nostalgic sounding. Like I always say, 2001 is my favorite year of all time, and like the album's production is why. Like it has this really I guess like I don't know how I would describe it, but it's really New York 2000, like really urban. That's all I can really say about it. Alright, next up is Godson. Also like a really solid album. Yes, I do put this album behind I Am. I know a lot of people might not like that, but that doesn't make it bad by any means. I just don't play it enough, I guess, to have a really solid opinion on it, but I do have a solid opinion at the same time. But yeah, Godson, great album. I always think of what's the name of it? Heaven is a fantastic track. Like I wanted more tracks that sound like Heaven. That's all I can really say. Yeah, Heaven is a really good one. Get Down. You have the obvious I Made You Look song, you know. The production on that was like really all over the place, and I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of Salam Remy, like the dude who did that track, and a lot of Nas's production in general. Up to this point, like at this point going forward, I'm not a really big fan of his stuff. I feel like this is one of his very few that are really good beats to me. I know that's really a popular opinion. Y'all be like, man, that's a legend right there, and he is. But I just feel like, I don't know, like I hear that and then I'm like, man, why doesn't his other beats sound this good? He has a few more in there, like the Don from Life Is Good, but this one is by far, I think, his best beat he's ever done, like Made You Look. But yeah, it also, like Godson also has that sort of same swagger that Stillmatic has, just a little bit softer because Nas's mom had died at this point. So it's a bit more personal. Again, you have the track like Heaven. Yeah, just great album. What's the name of that song? Actually, the best track on it, Realest Nigga Alive. That's the one. Best track, like, cause he just talks about everything from the past, like up to this point of his career. He talks about Jay-Z's beef. He talks about like his affiliation with Biggie and like how they had a small beef over the album covers with Illmatic and Ready to Die. He talks about his time with Wu-Tang and all that stuff. Yeah, great track. Good little retrospect track. Next up, we have Street's Disciple. Now, I know a lot of people, I think a lot of people like this one, but I don't. I think it's his worst. Just like everything around, like I feel like all the tracks around the album, like you had Illmatic 10th anniversary around this time, like he dropped some extra tracks on there, like Star Wars was one. On the Real, like he bought that track back from It Was Written from the Grave. Yeah, like he had a few tracks around the hype of it, like Rebirth, all that kind of stuff. Like there was some tracks that ended up they just didn't do anything with. And then like you get the actual album and it's not as good because he has that same cockiness to him that he had on Stillmatic, but it just doesn't work for me anyway. Like the production sucks. Like I feel like a lot of this album is just a big miss. I think it really is. It feels like he's having a celebration. Like it's a celebration album, as the cover says. You're supposed to feel like really good about the album, but I just really don't. There's only like a handful of tracks that I like, and it's 2 albums long. I think it's only double album, like official one, and I think there's at least like 40 tracks, 35 maybe, and I think like 3 of those tracks I just straight up like a lot, and that's it. But it's just the epitome of a filler album. Like the tracks that aren't singles just sound like filler, and that's pretty much that. Like the production, when people say Nas has never been really good at picking production, I think of this album. I think of Hip Hop Is Dead, even a little bit of Untitled. Like to be honest, he could do better with his beats, and I think this album sort of proves like any complaint people have with Nas, it's in this album to me anyway. Next up is Hip Hop Is Dead. Also, I don't know, I've sort of changed my opinion on this. I thought this was his worst, but there's some good tracks in there, more than Street's Disciple anyway. You have Still Dreaming with Kanye on it. What else you have on there? You have Can't Kill Me. I don't know if people like that one, but I think I do a little bit. You have that track Who Killed It. It has some cool concept out like songs on there, you know. So I think a bit of it is, I think there's some hits in there. It's just I don't really care for this album much. Like as much as like I like more of Nostradamus than I do of Hip Hop Is Dead. So that's why it's a little bit ahead. It's more of a preference than I think my solid opinion on which one is better. But yeah, even like the production on it kind of sucks. Like you have the track Hip Hop Is Dead. Like for someone to say something so bold, you're supposed to drop an Illmatic when you call an album that. And it's more of a it's more like Street's Disciple again in a way. Like the production and stuff. Like I just can't fuck with this album like I guess some other people do. But again, the tracks I do like a lot, Still Dreaming, You Can't Kill Me, the one with Snoop Dogg, can't think, Play On Player, that's the name of it. There's a few on there I like, but not enough of it, I guess. Next up is Untitled. This album went through the most shit. It's also another controversial title like Hip Hop Is Dead. It's yeah, this one was originally supposed to be called The N-Word with the hard R, you know. So this album, you know, got a lot of attention. The thing that sucks about this album is that it really could have been called that if it was released during the right time. Cause like Walmart and Target boycotted it, you know. They boycotted the album just for that name. And like now, like Walmart and Target are so irrelevant for music because like everything's on iTunes, Spotify, and stuff. Like if he'd have dropped this album now, I think it would have did better. But like he would have got to keep that name and it would have did better. But I think this album aged pretty damn well. I like just about every track on it. There's some cool concept tracks like Fried Chicken. I like The Slave and the Master. The actual track Untitled, Louis Farrakhan, I think is the name of it. My favorite track on it is gotta be the second track. What is it? You Can't Stop Us Now. And I know that's probably like no one cares about that track, but I think it's a good track. You have Breathe. The intro track is also really good. Can't think of it, but yeah, great album. I really do like Untitled a lot. Like if I can get this one autographed one day, I'd be really happy. Because it was around that time, like I was just really, it was the first Nas album that came out once I had become a fan by that point. Because like Hip Hop Is Dead was right around the time I actually found Nas, but I didn't really get into his music until Untitled had dropped. Like I bought Untitled. It was one of my first albums, and I loved it. And that probably plays a part as to why this one's so high up, you know. A little bit of nostalgia, but I think it's a great album, regardless. Now, Distant Relatives, I don't know if this is considered an official studio release or if it's a collab album. But, I mean, Nas on every single track, like at least 2 verses most of the time. But I don't really have a really solid opinion on it. I think it's sort of mediocre. Like, it's just, it's that African, like, it's African empowerment. Like, a lot of African love put into the album. Like, what's the name of that track with Lil Wayne and Josh Stone? Like, that's pretty much what I think of this album. I think it's like Our Generation or something. I forget. But yeah, this album is sort of, I always forget about it, that it exists, even though I own it. It's just, I guess this album just doesn't have that, like that firepower to it. It doesn't have that presence on it. It's always sort of forgotten, you know? Like, no one ever really talks about this one. But I think it's okay. Like, Nas, he had some solid verses on this one. Like, I like Nah Mean a lot. Like that one, like Nah Mean. Yeah. Like when Nas gets on the beat, like that part, like that's when I really enjoy the track, I guess. But Damon Marlin, like he's a cool dude. Like his music's cool. But I really don't have an opinion on his side of it. And it seems like the production was more favored towards him, so that's maybe why I don't really care for the production. It didn't have that. It felt more like, I guess what's the word? Like world music than it felt like New York music, like what I like from Nas. So I don't think it's a bad project by any means. It's just my opinion isn't really solid on it. I think what I do think of it is that it's a pretty mediocre album. Next up, we have Life is Good. We waited 4 years for an official studio album, and this one is, I know a lot of people don't like this one, so it is what it is. But it's an okay album. You know, it's also pretty mediocre. But the good tracks are really good. The bad tracks are just really forgettable. The filler tracks are really forgettable. That's all I can really say. Like, the only tracks I really like go back to is The Don. I go back to what's the name of that track? The Locomotive. That's the name of it. Locomotive. Nasty. What's the name of it? I don't really play Daughters. I know that's a big track on that one. I don't really play it much. And some on Smash. Yeah, it has some hits in there, you know. It's a good album, but it's also very forgettable. I know what this album's supposed to be. It's almost like paying homage back towards Street's Disciple, because Nas was getting married at that time, so it's a celebration. And this one's supposed to feel more, I guess, I don't want to say depressing, but like it's almost like the exact opposite of what that album, the theme of it was. So like, you know, Nas was rapping about his divorce and stuff now, and you know, I don't really care for that part of the album. I don't really care for Khalees. You know, that's personally, I don't really think Nas should ever talk about his love life and his music much. But hey, you know what? It's an okay album. I like the good tracks a lot, and that's pretty much my opinion. All right, next up is Nasir, the last track, his last album. Now, this one is, my opinions more or less haven't really changed much on it, and my opinions line up with just about everyone else's. You know, it's an awkward album. It feels like it's kind of forced. Yeah, Nas, like lyrically, Nas did his thing. You know, he was okay, but production just wasn't there. It didn't feel right. The only track I really like a lot was Bonjour. That's the only one I play from it a lot anyway. But you know, just thinking about it, like White Label is just the most awkward sounding fucking track on the album. Like the sample just overpowers his voice so much. It overpowers him way too much in the track. Like, you have, not only do you have the beat being louder than him, but you also have like the sample that's just like going between both of your ears, and it's just too much to focus on. And that's just my opinion on the album in general. It just sounds really awkward. It felt like Kanye made the beats and then Nas just rapped. Like, I don't even know like what to think of it. If Kanye, I feel like the other albums Kanye dropped at the time, he had the lyrics in his hand. He had the lyrics in his hand before he made the beats or something. Because the other ones feel natural. You know, Daytona feels great sounding album. But then this one feels the exact opposite. Like, it's the other way around. Like, it feels like the beats were made, then Nas had to rap to them, and it doesn't feel right. I don't know. It didn't feel like a genuine project, and that's just what people think of it. But my opinion more or less hasn't changed because I think that it's still fairly mediocre. You know, it's middle of the pack. I did move it behind Distant Relatives over time. Like the first time I heard it, I was like, okay, I think this is better than I think it's better than Distant Relatives, but it's also like dead middle with Life Is Good. Cause like I don't really care for the album much. Like I played it at least 20 times, and I still don't really feel any different about it. I don't know. Like I don't see this album ever really changing its opinion for me. Like I see it for what it is. It's a pretty weird, awkward album that that it could have been better. Like Kanye could have made beats for Nas, like, and not just I don't know. Like it just felt like Kanye had some leftover beats and put them on that. I don't really know. But the beats aren't bad, the verses aren't bad. It just didn't click. It just did not click. But anyway, that is my retrospect for the Nas discography. My opinions on the other like little things that he did, like QB's Finest, garbage album. It's not even like an official thing, so I'm not mad. But you know, it's basically all of QB, like QB's Finest. That's the name of the album too. But you know, you got Nas, Mobb Deep. You got like who else is on there? I forget. Like Bravehearts. All them dudes on that. And that could have been a really cool project because you got all these elite dudes. Especially you have Mobb Deep in '99, like when they dropped that album. Mobb Deep was, I think, at their best at that time. That is also a unpopular opinion, but I think that like Murder Music is probably their best album, like track for track, pound for pound. I think it's better than their other stuff. But yeah, you got those dudes at their best. Like Nas was solid. You know, he wasn't doing bad, even though he did drop Nostradamus. The dude could give you a solid feature. That was just what that was. But this could have been a better album. Like, what does it have? It has The Bridge on it. That was a good track. Uchiwali, Jesus Christ, why is that a song? Why is that a song? Like that kind of ruined Nas' legacy. Like it was alright. Like people already felt like Nas was deteriorating. Like his abilities were deteriorating because he did drop a verse that was his bodyguard dropped a better verse than him on his own track, and that's pretty much, to be honest. But yeah, that is that. What else is there? What's the name of that? The Firm. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about The Firm real quick. I think this album is really underrated. Like you got these dudes, The Firm family, supergroup. This could have been a better project than it is, but I think it's a solid album on its own. Cause you got Nas, AZ, Foxy Brown, you got Nature. I wish, looking back, I do wish that Nature wasn't there. I wish Cormega was still part of the group. I really do wish Cormega was still there, but they had their fallout. And I wish, you know, they marketed Dr. Dre as like being the producer of the album. So like, again, supergroup thing. He was there. He dropped like a couple of verses on the album. He produced a couple tracks, but I wish he had a bigger part in the album. I wish that he produced every single track, because you'd have had like a Nas, Dr. Dre kind of thing. Because we had Nas Coming From It Was written, so that was really hype. You know, people immediately wanted more of that. You know, that was like a match made in heaven. That was thunder and lightning when they finally met. And I just wish this album could have been more than what it is, but it's not a bad album by any means, because I like a lot of it. I like what's the name of that track? Phone Tap. I like what is it? Throw Your Guns. The one with, I don't even think Nas is on that track, but AZ, Nature. Like there's a few people on that track. That's it. I think that's my favorite track too. And yeah, I like that track a lot. 5 Minutes to Flush. Yeah, I like the production more than the actual song. Great album. I do wish that it was more than what it is though. And finally, I think this is the last like official non-studio album, Lost Tapes. Basically what I Am and Nostradamus were supposed to be. And you know, it's just the second coming of Illmatic for a lot of people, because like it's just good track after good track after good track. The lyrics never fall off at any point. Like there's like a lot of the tracks don't even have like hooks on them. Like it's just, he'll just stop talking and then he'll come back with another verse. Like just let the beat be the hook, you know, that type of shit. So yeah, that is pretty much like my opinions on Nas's discography. Tried to make this as brief as possible. I know this is probably a long ass video, but you know what? Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about this. I know a lot of y'all Sonic fans aren't gonna watch this, but you know what? It's here for history's sake. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, be sure that like button. If y'all have any opinions, please leave them down below in the comments. But hey, y'all keep that hostile shit out of here. There's no need for that, man. Anyway, I'm gonna see you on the next one, and peace.